Jimmy John's, America's #1 sandwich delivery, fast Ed speaking. I'm on my way.
I'm in the backyard here, Ed. Wow, you are fast.
Yes, sir, freaky fast and freaky good. But I gotta say, I've never delivered to a dude in a doghouse.
Well, I'm definitely in the doghouse.
I thought in the doghouse was just an expression, a figure of speech.
Well, the doghouse is a very real place.
How long are you condemned to your canine quarters?
Too soon to tell, but on the bright side...
The doghouse has a bright side?
Yeah, the wife can't throw a lamp this far.
Oh! I guess she's been working out.
Order Jimmy John's sandwich delivery today. Jimmy John's. Freaky fast. Freaky fresh.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, my name is Yvonne Mason, and I have my own custom website. It was built by Wellhaven and Associates. Check out my website at www.authoryvonnemason.com. You can have a custom website built just for you and your business too. If you mention my name, you will receive $100 off the cost of your website. Remember, www.authoryvonnemason.com. And remember, Wellhaven and Associates for all of your custom website needs, as well as business cards and other promotional items.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is election night 2016, and I have decided to take a break from it because it's driving me crazy. I am your host, Yvonne Mason, and this is Off the Chain. And tonight, I have got this amazing guest. I just can't say enough about him. Have not personally not read his book yet, but I tell you what, I'm going to go out and get it. Author and former journalist Gary Starta. His love for science fiction compelled him to write his first novel, What Are You Made Of? He published it in 2006. He has been inspired by Isaac Asimov. The science fiction novel focuses on intelligent artificial life and whether sentient androids should possess the same rights as humans. Interesting. The androids in Sartre's novel are created as androids, part machine, part human, further blurring the line between human and machine. Starta foresees a near future where humans will be forced to decide if intelligent machinery is indeed a life form. Possibly in this near future, some humans will possess computer enhancements to overcome disabilities, becoming hybrids themselves. The line between biological life form and mechanical life form continues to be examined in the 2010's God of the Machines. Also, Nine Incarnate, along with his preceding Catelyn Diggs series novels, Demon Inhibitions, Extreme Liquidation, and Blood Web, are reminiscent of the X-Files television movie series. Contemporary authors Laurel K. Hamilton, Rachel Kane, Jim Butcher, and Kelly Armstrong also fuel Gary's aspiration to create paranormal suspense. Sartre's crime novella, Murder by Association, blends mystery with forensic investigation. It is a departure from previous books because it contains no science fiction or paranormal elements. And its follow-up is 2012's Kindred Killers. Additionally, Gary foresees his 2008 novella, Alzabreth's Garden, a fantasy romance, as another out-of-the-box effort. And then he has Sense, I hope I am pronouncing it right, and it begins a trilogy including forthcoming Time Wanderer and Obsolescence. So if you like zombies, you got to check out Dead Market. That's another one coming out. As a vice cop battles the evil manications of Big Pharma. Gary, my stars and garters. What an amazing author. But you're also a journalist. So welcome tonight. I can't wait to get into all of this stuff.
Well, hi. Well, yep. Hope everybody's having a great night, and hope the fiction lovers out there are finding solace and consolation in the fiction, especially on a night like this. So.
Well, I am just tickled to death. I cannot wait. Before we get into all these wonderful books, tell me a little bit about your history. How did you make the journey from journalist Well, how did you become a journalist? Was it something you always wanted to do? And how did you make the journey from journalist to author and that kind of transition with all the genres you mix together?
Okay. Well, let's start with writing. I guess writing explains why I'm writing fiction now. I always had that in me, and when I was very young, I knew I was going to college and I was going to be a newspaper reporter, and that all happened and fell into place. I did that for a few years, and then I left that. But there was many years separation between doing fiction books, so I don't really find those two writing styles really connected. In fact, they're kind of like a 180, because I can think back when I was a reporter and just thinking like, I would never write fiction. I think I felt intimidated by it when I was in college, coming with all those ideas and things. But what happened back in 2004 was that I met someone and I told them that I was writing, or had been a reporter for a while, and then they said, well, what are you doing? How come you're not writing? And they pretty much demanded that I start again. So I didn't really have any idea about what I was going to do. I think I started writing some poems and short stories or something. But the interest in science fiction was always prevalent with me. And I guess that was my natural thing to go lean on and, kind of like pick up writing again, but in a whole new direction with fiction. So that's that book you were first talking about called What Are You Made Of? That was my first effort. And I found that I think novels were my thing, not so much short stories, and ever since really been writing novels since 2004. So I hope, there's some out there that will pique some of your readers' interest. I think there's something for everyone, between mystery and crime to science fiction.
Well, before we get delving too much into your books, explain to folks I know the difference in the dynamic between journalism and writing fiction, but a lot of people might not know how they're not even parallel. And like you say, they are a 180. So explain to the folks the difference in being a journalist and then writing fiction.
Well, I mean, just, on the surface, it's, journalism is writing facts, and everything has to be facts, and everything has to be checked out, or at least if someone says something, you're quoting them, and, everything's kind of like really balanced in that way, whereas fiction's kind of off the wall, as you know, and it's really, really
but
something different.
But then on some level, they are parallel, because we have such an educated reader anymore that when we're writing even fiction, do you not agree that there's some form of research that has to be involved in order to make it believable?
Most definitely, and I do that part, and I appreciate books that do. So that definitely is a big element of what I want to bring to the table when I write books, is that they have a believable element to them, even if there's something amazing going on, that it's can be looked at as maybe some kind of theory or something. Something has to be there for me, actually, as a reader, too, for me to really enjoy the book. I think the author has to give some kind of plausible explanation, to the weirdness or the paranormal or whatever that's going on in that particular book. So, yeah, I definitely believe in that credibility. I think, some readers have read me or my early stuff, and they weren't surprised I was a journalist. So I think there's some element of my journalism style that probably is in my writing. I don't know if that's good or for bad, but I guess it gives me a good scope of how to shape things, because I never took any courses as far as creative writing goes or anything with fiction. I kind of actually avoid doing traditional outlines. I really try to make my books kind of something that is an alternative for readers to go to, where you're not going to find a cookie cutter book, basically. At least not find a book that you felt you'd read before, because that's my aim. I like to make something different each time, as hard as it may be. But I think in the end, it's that, I want to give readers an alternative to what's out there in the mainstream.
Well, let me ask you this. Because you were a journalist, and as a journalist, your writing had to be not only factual, but it also had to be tight, because you had so much room to put so many words, and you had to get that story across in those so many words. Have you found that it has helped you in writing your fiction, that you had that experience as a journalist in order to make your story tight, so your readers don't find themselves rambling all over everywhere trying to decide what color a blade of grass is?
Yeah, I believe in that too. I think, I think that reporter background and writing concisely definitely gives me direction. I'm not one of those authors who's very, very heavy, detailed, descriptive authors. In fact, I don't even tell too much about my characters the way they look, just a little bit, and I think the reader can, grasp upon what they want that character to look like, or what that character looks like in their mind. This is the beauty of books, is that you're not so much, have such a limited framework as, say, like something that's, in TV or film. And, the reader can really, just imagine what they want to imagine as far as what they look like. So, yeah, I don't like bogging things down with that. And I think that somehow the writing that I did way in the past somehow helps me to formulate what I'm doing. I just sort of have like an ear or an eye or something, I think, in particular, for when something needs to move on, or when a chapter ends, or, when something has made it, has gone on, and now's the time to move to something else, rather than, like kind of like dragging on, like you say. Not that my books aren't long, but I think that, you do have to be aware of your reader, and you don't want to ramble, that's for sure.
And also, on that same vein, because when I was doing my research on you, you blend different genres sometimes into the same book. Was it difficult to do that as clean as you wrote as a journalist? Was it difficult to blend the different genres into the same book without losing the thread of the story and then making it all come together at the end?
Well, I don't think so, not at all. I think it's just my interest, my varied interests that, help me to combine things together. And, I think there's, maybe even more new genres to come, that haven't been, so-called titled yet, because, look at even something that was like, you call it now a paranormal romance. That was only around maybe, 10, 15 years at the most, and that's a new genre. So I think some of these combinations might lend themselves to new genres, and I have a book that's waiting to be edited that's going to come out. And that, I kind of ask myself really what genre this is, because, I see some romance to it. I see some of a thriller to it. But I also see like a kind of a new age type of Zen type of category. And I myself would probably put it in that category, although I know there's probably no such thing. So I'm just a person that does not want to limit what I do by any stretch of the imagination. So, no, it's not anything that made anything more difficult. It probably helped. It probably just, kept me even more intrigued to write that story with blending some things together. I guess, for an example, things blend together would make me just like, a mystery detective that's blended with science fiction. And just, little bits of things like, in a detective book or something where there is a bit of romance, or there's something else in it, not predominant, but there to like kind of lighten the flavor of it and make it real, because in life there's many mixes of emotions and feelings that go on with every scenario that you can think of, humor and sadness. So I think it all fits together and blends. When you read a good story, I think you do see a lot of different things going on. So.
And you're right. You're right. Life is several different genres all rolled into one.
Exactly. Yeah.
It is not one-dimensional. You've got paranormal, you've got thrillers, you've got suspense, you've got romance, you've got breakup, you've even got hybrids running around. You've got true crime. So you're right. Life is a lot like throwing a whole lot of different genres in the same pot and coming out with a story.
Yeah,
I like that. Maybe we should have a whole new genre, which is called a mixed bag.
Yeah, why not? I mean, I'd love it because, it doesn't force yourself to pinhole yourself in that one genre. I know it's, for marketing purposes that publishers are going to want to put it in that one box. But for me, and I think for many readers out there, that we definitely want to see all the flavors, And
why do we have to have a box?
Yeah.
Why do we have to? Why should we be pigeonholed into a box as writers? Because we're not one-dimensional in our everyday life, so why should our books be one-dimensional?
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking, too, of an example like you're saying, like mixing the genres, and I had two of my characters, they sort of have crisscross into each other's books, kind of crossovers, if you will. And now one of my characters is a detective, Carter, and he's in two books himself, and I'm writing the third book as we speak. I'm almost coming down to the wire with that book. That should be up beginning next year. And he is, just all basically, mystery detective, homicide detective, nothing paranormal there. But I've mixed him into my Caitlin Diggs series. Now, she's an FBI agent, and she comes across a lot of paranormal things. She actually touches an object, a crystal, that kind of changes her. So she has some definitely kind of sci-fi paranormal thing going on with her. But yet I managed to put her into my Carter books, basically because, one of her gifts that she has now is that she's kind of psychic. And, police departments do rely on psychics, whether you believe it or not, as a credible tool. So I was thinking, that's not really science fiction if you put it that way, because, departments do kind of look for anything they can get, especially when they get desperate, calling on a psychic or something. Yeah, so
they rely on psychics.
Really?
They rely on people that have a sixth sense about them. They rely on a lot of different things anymore.
Yeah, I think it's opening up, and so something that would look like, really crazy science fiction is viewed in a different light now. And then, again, you'll always have the possibility, even science fictions that go back over 100 years ago, some of their science fiction in that is now science fact. So who's to say? That's just all very intriguing, as a reader and a writer.
And we could go back to your What Are You Made Of book, because there are, in fact, amputees that have bionic arms and legs, which 20 years ago or 30 years ago when they did the Bionic Man television series, it was sci-fi. Yes,
exactly. And now, that's something that looked at being as a cyborg as a reality. So, that's kind of the idea that, we may be kind of hybrids just because of that, just because of some, technology helps some of us, perform certain functions. So, yeah, that's fascinating, too, to look at it, that the biological mix is not maybe 100% anymore, or in some cases, and what's next? What's next in that genetic engineering that might come out or has already been worked on by scientists, undercover. I mean, I know there's a lot of things out there, I think, with transgenics, which is mixing different species together. So there's all kinds of things that could be possible in our future. And those bizarre ideas of science fiction might, eventually become, well, maybe not accepted, because I can see a lot of controversy with some of this going on, especially with, all that genetic engineering and the robots and everything coming and the androids. There's certainly going to be a lot of controversy. And
but it goes back to the books. For years and years and years and years, we've had certain genres, and that's where the book was slotted, whether it was really that true genre or not, that's where it was put because nobody knew where else to put it. And it's the same with what we're just talking about. Things that we didn't believe happened are now happening. So we have to change the genres to encompass the new writings that are coming out that pretty soon are going to become fact.
Well, I like that proposal. I hope you can help get that out there. That's great.
We'll keep fighting on that one, because that leads me into my next interesting topic of conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, this gentleman, Gary Starta. This has been the day for me. Oh, my word. It's live radio, and it's been a very long and tiring day. Gary has a love for the Egyptian pyramids, and he has a theory that he has studied that I've delved into a little bit doing research on him, and it's very plausible when you think about it as to how those pyramids came about. Tell the audience about your theory and what you studied and how it plays into your book, Nine Incarnate.
Okay, sure. Nine Incarnate is the fourth book in the Caitlin Diggs series, and she's the FBI agent I was talking about that gets transformed when she touches a crystal. So as the series goes on, things, her perception of things and things she can do change, and eventually by the fourth book, she comes to believe that when she touched the crystal, that she was sort of merged with the crystal's, let's say, memories. And for my proposal for that book is basically that what was stored in that crystal may very well have been the essence or life of one of the Egyptian goddesses, and that would be Isis. So she feels she has a connection, and she's not really sure until this book comes out, and then it becomes pretty clear that something's going on inside of her. And so in Nine Incarnate, the idea was always that the Egyptian gods promised they would return, along with many other gods and older civilizations. They always said they would promise a return. So here it comes. They have returned. But now in today's society, and Diggs, as an investigator herself, has a wary eye to it. She is wondering, in what form did they come back? Did they really come back as gods? Are they copies, clones? Could they be just aliens? Kind of, leaves it as an angle in the book of them, to be questioned, not really trusted. But what it gets into basically is some theories of the pyramids. And I've always found that personally fascinating to try to think of how they were created. There's really no instructions left of how they were. And it's kind of anybody's guess. There's really no right or wrong. But some of the traditional ideas of how they're created just really don't wash. I mean, they didn't really have trees where they could roll the blocks on. upwards, picturing like a whole slave of an army doing this. I think that something was used, and it may have been an anti-gravity type of a device. Now, you can take aliens out of the picture. If you really don't believe in aliens, you just can't swallow that. Maybe some other civilization back then did have some technology that got lost, and they can somehow lift heavy stones and make them lightweight. They can do an anti-gravity type of situation scenario, even for just a few seconds, that allows them to lift those stones and put them into place. And if you follow that type of kind of logic, then who knows, what else could be possible with that, basically an anti-gravity type of situation. So I think that is one plausible idea of how those pyramids got built. I think also that there were some other incredible tools that were made apparent to these Egyptians. They certainly couldn't have carved everything with precision without some kind of modern tool. There's just too many, people that have looked into this, and they say even with modern tools they would be hard pressed to do the work they did. So it's really quite fascinating. I think that the Egyptians did do all this, but I think they were aided somehow. And that lends itself to a story where you might want to really run with it, and you might want to consider aliens influence and their reasoning behind it. So I think Nine Incarnate is a book that for people who are kind of fascinated with the Asian alien theory might want to look at that and see some of the explanations I have in the book for what went on. But again, it's anybody's guess. That's the beauty of this. It's anybody's guess, and the more theories, the better, and the more fascinating it is to discuss this with someone. So I just got to keep open mind.
In some of the quick research that I did, and correct me if I'm wrong, because like I said, it was very quick research, the theory is that the Sphinx and some of those pyramids were built in line with some of the star constellations. Oh,
exactly. Yes, exactly. So that I think Sirius comes into play in that, and Orion and Cygnus, I believe. There's different theories of how those all pyramids, how they align up to those star systems. And what's the reason for that? Is it just a religious reason, or is it something deeper? Because really, how could they see that far without telescopes? And and how could they plan and plot such things? I think there's something behind it. I've heard a lot of theories, because I'm so interested in this myself, that they were kind of aligned as sort of like a feng shui, if I can pronounce it right, type of idea, where you're trying to maximize energy points, or you're actually not only maximizing energy via the sky, but also underneath, because there's also theories that there's energy lines that run underneath the ground. They've been called in many fictional books ley lines, for lack of a better word. And, if you line up certain structures or something, maybe something spectacular could happen. Maybe there could be power plants. Maybe they could do things that, that unfortunately we just never saw. It's not written down what they could have done, and it's anybody's guess as to what they, were capable of. But to think that they spent all their time solely in a religious quest or solely just to bury bodies is kind of incorrect. They were not used really for tombs as they were first thought. And now there's discoveries almost every year of new rooms that they find in the pyramids. So it has to be a new way of thinking about the pyramids. It's not just about burial. It may be a lot about afterlife still, but I think there's some kind of influence going on that we don't know. Whether it was a civilization. Yeah, go ahead.
Did they not use some of the pyramids for grain storage? Did I read that wrong?
Yeah, they may have. Yeah, they probably did for just more mundane reasons, because I'm sure that would keep that food for them stored better. So there may have been multi uses for the pyramids. I definitely think so, because anybody that spends that much time on them.
Well, you think about the constellations, and the Egyptians had all of these gods. Isis was one of the prominent goddesses, and you had all these gods and goddesses that they worshiped. They had one for the harvest, and one for fertility, and one for war, and so to me it would stand to reason, it would be logical that when they built the pyramids, they built them in line with the constellations, because that's where some of the gods and goddesses wound up. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to think of it that way, yeah, you could say that they. I mean, it depends on your belief system and everything, but I mean, yeah, I mean, the gods were kind of said to ascend or transport themselves to a higher place, and if that place was across the stars in another system, so be it. Who knows really how they got there? Was it just basically them kind of like in a Star Trek kind of way, like beaming there, or were they in some sort of technology to get there? It's sort of like try to read between the lines of what what is said in the history books. Really, was there something more concrete when they said that they were looking to go to this afterlife, and it turned out to be star system? Was it really a death into afterlife, or was it merely just transporting themselves, maybe still living somehow, and transport themselves off somewhere off-world, where maybe they originally came from? Maybe they had knowledge of a great technology. They brought it here. They were kind of like watchers, maybe, and they decided to share their ideas with the Egyptians. So, there's a lot. One question leads to another question in this, and it's so open.
And we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah, that's right. And it's really, it's really kind of sad that we don't have that, whatever happened, whether the knowledge got lost, stored intentionally, whatever. I mean, there's idea that there's a big hall of records somewhere underneath the pyramids where there may be books that may answer all these questions about how they were built and the intentions. But so far we haven't found them, or we're meant not to find them, either or. So now we just have to sit here and basically, as fiction writers who are interested in this, we just left here to ponder.
And what is even more interesting is that even though the Sphinx and the pyramids have weathered through all of the centuries, they are still standing, and they're finding, like you said, they're finding more and more pyramids all the time, and more rooms within those pyramids.
Yeah.
So there has to be a logical reason as to why they stood the test of time, because in the environment that those pyramids and the Sphinx are, they should have been destroyed a long time ago. Between the wars within the different factions and the weather, they should have already been gone, but they're not.
Yeah, it is amazing. And there's, you're speaking of pyramids, and they find these pyramids being discovered all over the planet. So that is really interesting in itself, because if none of these people's civilizations were connected, how were they all kind of fascinated or had an idea to do such structures? So unless the land was landlocked somehow, and then flooding happened and whatever, earthquakes, whatever happened to separate the continents, I just can't see how all those different civilizations, in South America, and even they're finding pyramids up as far as the North Pole. How would all these different people come to this conclusion to build such structures? And there's definitely more than meets the eye. Were they somehow connected to others in a telepathic sense? I mean, you don't want to go the alien route, then how can that be explained? How can all these people all want to build pyramids? How can they all know to do it? There's also like theories out there that, when scientists start thinking of something or builders, that kind of their consciousness kind of spreads, and other people across the planet start thinking on the same thing. So maybe with these builders that happened as well. Maybe just all these builders had these ideas, and it sounds incredible, but how else could that have happened? How could all those pyramids be made? So that's another thing that fascinates me, and it's another thing, like, how will that ever be answered? There's so many questions.
And I go back to your journalistic training, that as a journalist, when you got your teeth into a story and you only got a little thread of it, you did not stop until you got that story in its entirety. And it's the same thing with the pyramid thing, because we have pyramids in Mexico, we have pyramids in Peru, we have the Aztecs, we have the Incas, and like you said, all the way up to the North Pole, there's pyramids. How did they get there? How did they know to build them? How did they know how to build them? What was the purpose of them? And why did they leave them?
Yeah, why did they leave them? Man, that's just incredible. I don't know. Were they a vehicle for these people? They might, just been regular people too, and they found some way to use them as a vehicle. I don't know. Wow, it's just a mind blower to think of this, isn't it? I mean, I'm glad that you're fascinated too, if you sound fascinated about it as I am, because...
Well, see, I've always loved the Egyptians. The Egyptian culture has always fascinated me, because it was the center of civilization at a time when there was very little civilization. So for the pyramids to be in Egypt or in that part of the world, and to be in Mexico and the Incas and the Aztecs and the North Pole, I never connected the dots until I started doing research on you, and we started having this conversation. How did it come about? Who did it? When did it happen? And what happened to them?
That's a good one. When did it happen? Because, some of the researchers now looking into this, think that the Egyptian pyramids are a lot older than 3,000 years ago. So, what if they're closer to 10,000 years ago? That kind of lends itself that maybe there was another civilization before the Egyptians that may have had a hand in the pyramids, and they were just somehow wiped out with some, bad situation with the environmental situation or disease or something, and everything got wiped out. But it seems like, what you're saying, too, that how do they all know to do this? So it seems like a plan. And I think, it could have been some kind of networking plan, and maybe all these structures are somehow related to an energy grid. Because it's just, there's too many connections with not just pyramids, but other sacred buildings that seem to be situated in just particular spots, maybe to garner as much energy as they can.
And I don't believe it's coincidences.
Yeah, I mean, to spend all that time and their resources, and they didn't have long lives back then on top of it, how could they invest all that time in something that's not going to be really, really worth it? And wouldn't stand the time for the next generations to use as well. So there's a lot. There's a lot of thought going on in that, and I just don't think it was solely built as some kind of shrine or something. I think that even if it was, I think it was a multi-purpose use to these structures.
Well, there is you there's you another book to work on. How do all these pyramids connect? Who built them? Why did they build them? And what happened to them?
Well, Yeah, I'm hoping. Well, actually, I have another series called Camden Investigations, and this is a series that combines ghost hunters with UFO chasers. Something that I thought, like, you never see like the two different type of paranormal groups like ever examine something together. They almost seem like they're on this other side of the fence. I don't think you can really investigate something without seeing it from all angles. So I decided to kind of put a situation where I combine ghost hunters with the UFO chasers. And I'm hoping to get the second book of the series out next year sometime. And that book will deal with the pyramids once again. It's going to deal with that kind of idea that, there looks like some kind of like networking going on with the pyramids. So hopefully when that comes out and the people are fascinated by that, they'll go out and check that out as well. So I don't know if I'm done with the pyramids. Maybe my books. I don't know. I think one thing I'm not done with, because I started to think a few months ago of doing another book with androids, is that I don't think I'm done with androids. I'm really kind of fascinated with them. So I think the androids have a lot more to say in a book that I think I'm going to be writing next year. So, they're kind of almost right around the corner on the time scale with us. I mean, there's predictions that we may have them within 10 or 20 years, and that's very close. Now, not that they're going to be the sentient marvels that we see in books and movies, but just that beginning is going to lead to something incredible, because they're almost going to be like a new life form. And if they do become sentient, then my idea is, like, and my question is, are they going to have any rights? Are they going to just be treated as objects? And what about people who have combined technologies, the hybrids? Really, where do they stand? Are they totally human? Or so? I mean, there's so much I think meat in that subject, and I get so fascinated when I see these videos out, like on YouTube, and you see some Japanese scientists building them, and you see the pictures, and they have this skin that is so lifelike. You can look at this android, and unless someone tells you, you can't tell it's not a person. That is really fascinating.
And I agree with you that within the next 10, 15 years, there may be workable androids out there that will be used in our first responder situations.
Yeah, that would be it. Yeah, that would be it. I think they're already used in the battlefields in some ways, but I'd like to see it develop more than just, it'd be great that they can help out in emergencies and do things that, where humans would have gotten injured or killed. That's excellent, but it's fascinating to see as they develop and become more integrated, what their roles might be and how we might be dealing with them, other than just like a kind of like servant master type of situation, that they're more than just like an object, or more than just like, they already have cars being developed that are driverless cars. So will there be more than just an object? I hope so. I think it'd be very interesting that if they're maybe even considered, one day becoming part of people's families. Who can say?
That is not beyond the realm of impossibility, because there's an old adage that if you can think of it, it can happen.
Right.
And who's to say that androids or even hybrids don't wind up with human emotion and human frailties and human flaws and human strengths?
Well, that could be because, if you get the technology developed enough, that can happen. And it could also happen because, if we're the creators of them and we start to make them mimic ourselves, well, that's kind of a given now, so. But, all this was, looked upon in maybe even the 60s of being coming, not too far down the road with Isaac Asimov's books. And he really fascinated me with that idea of the human, of the mirror image of the robots not only mirroring the look of humans, but trying to act and behave as them, and not always for the better, because, they will pick up some of the bad habits that humans have as well. And I found that was the most fascinating points of reading some of his stories, was that, wow, now this robot is imitating the humans, and it's not really such in a great way, then maybe because they're being devious or something or whatever. And here we go. We've created something, and now because it's so lifelike, it's going to possibly cause a little bit of issues with that. So just think about all the licensing and ownership and rights and all that. That could be really a big error to go through for these artificial life forms to go through. That I see that there almost will be up against some races were that had to overcome all this prejudice and hate, and they had to overcome all this to get rights, and that was not correct, but they had to go through that process. And
that is part of the unintended consequences that always happen.
And I think artificial beings will have to go through that same type of trial before they would ever be seen as equals with us. So that's going to be a long road when that happens, but it's going to be fascinating.
I want to back up just a little bit, because I'm sitting here looking at one of your books called Blood Web, and we had talked about your Caitlin Diggs series. This is the first book, correct?
Yep, that's exactly right. Yep.
Tell the audience a little bit about this book so that they can get interested in it, so that they can get themselves down to 9 Incarnate and read it all in order and not be lost in what's going on.
Okay. I had briefly mentioned a crystal, and this crystal kind of weaves its way throughout the series. The idea of Blood Web is basically a biological internet. And when Caitlin comes across this crystal, which is in the hands of a teen who is becoming controlled by it and doing its bidding, basically, the backdrop of the story is basically that the crystal has been around for ages. It's found in a cave in Texas, but before that, it was connected to the 1800s with the Cheyenne Indians, who were victims of a massacre. And I have one of the survivors, basically, only surviving because they came across this crystal, which seems to be sort of alive, seems to have a sentience about it. So it saves this Native American from death, and I think as the series goes on, you'll see that it had kind of woven itself through time, even back to the Egyptians. Here, crystal storing information is definitely scientific. They'll do that with computers for storage. They use crystals telecommunication with radios. So the idea is not really that out there. And after I thought of the crystal idea, I thought of how it might be used in the wrong hands. And I know there was a lot of mind control experiments going on, say, in the 1950s. Mm-hmm. And the book was that the crystal could be used to further that agenda of mind control. So now you kind of have something that can be really used for good or something you really used for bad. So as the book goes on, Caitlin will have to deal with the teen who was controlled by it, and actually kind of exacting a revenge scenario on the descendants of the people who were responsible for killing the Cheyenne in the massacre out in Colorado in the 1860s. So the killer is kind of trying to get back at the descendants. As you can imagine, it's really very paranormal, very tough for FBI or any police to combat this thing. And Caitlin will take a risk at the end, by the end of the book, which is going to really, not only risk her life, but risk for entwining with the crystal. And, at this point, who knows what the crystal is going to do to her. So I hope that is interesting enough as far as what the crystal...
Yes, I'm going to get off of here in a little bit and order this book on my Kindle so that I can read it, because the title itself, Blood Web, ladies and gentlemen, by Gary Starta, the title itself is enough to pique my interest, because those of you who know me know that I'm kind of twisted anyway, and if it has blood and gore in it, Von's going to read it. Now, tell me real quickly about Dead Market, because I know that we have a lot of listeners that are into the zombies. What is Dead Market?
I did kind of Dead Market as my take on zombies. You're not going to really find my zombies, the typical ones you've seen in the movies or TV. What I did was basically kind of have the infected kind of actually turn out to be the good guys in this case, rather than be the evil or the Walking Dead or something that's just going to be out to mindlessly rip you apart for their own indigestion. So I wanted to do something different. I was going to do something. So I have this cop in the book, and he comes across a crime scene, and his friend has been killed, and he's been bitten, and he's standing there with the coroner, and they're both kind of like scratching their heads saying, well, how did this happen? There doesn't seem to be any animals or something capable of this, they're even thinking like, there's some kind of drug addict killed this guy, and the next thing you know, this body has reanimated, and it's on its way to biting our hero, who is a cop, and this is how it all begins, where he's transformed, and he's still aware of who he is even after he's been bitten. So he's fighting to retain himself as a cop. He's fighting to retain his ideas of doing the right thing, of being a cop, even though his flesh is definitely doing changes and, definitely changing. And as it goes on, it's seen to be a virus that was purposely created. And my idea of the premise of the story is that one of the drug companies, not so much a reputable one as you can imagine, wanted to create a new market, and they wanted to have this kind of catastrophe happen where then they can market a pill so they can keep whoever was affected and bitten by this disease to try to retain their humanity as much as possible for their family members who have to deal with, let's face it now, kind of like a something that's really, a creature basically, maybe retaining some semblance of their memories. So, picture the cop now. He's out there. He's trying to do the right thing. He's trying to find out how this happened, how he can stop it from happening. And along the way, he's going to meet another infected woman. And she really has a bitter feel to this, not only that she's been turned into a zombie, but that how it happened, that she was purposely infected. So she is out for revenge. Our cop is more about trying to find the answer, doesn't want to really get taken up by all the revenge part of it. So they're trying to keep themselves. They're trying to use makeup or whatever to keep themselves. They stumble across a supply of pills which will keep them from basically ripping into each other for meat and so forth, kind of keeping that hunger away, but it's only for a limited time. So they find the pills, and one thing will lead to another. Not really to give too much away of the book, but they're eventually going to thread the trail of, who's behind the pill, why it was made, and hopefully stop a bad outbreak happening. So I guess, it's definitely different from most of the zombie books where, these beings who were infected by it actually turn out to be kind of the heroes and trying to stop a spread of the infection.
You are an amazing multi-genre author.
Well, okay. I'll take
an
that.
Amazing multi-genre. I love it. And then we're just going to create a new genre. We'll just call it the mixed bag.
Yeah, exactly. And for your Florida people out there, and I'm a Florida person now, and I know you are. Much of this book takes place in Tampa and Ybor City section. And the funny thing is, do you know that? I was writing this book before I even moved to Florida, and I never had any inkling that I was going to be in Tampa, no less. So that makes it all the stranger that book happened. So anyway, that's kind of a... One too. Yeah, oh, wow. I'd appreciate that. Wow.
Yeah. All right, now we've got about 3 minutes left, so tell the audience, tell our listening audience where they can go and find you and read up on all of your books. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm bringing Gary back. He is going to be one of my regulars because he's always got something good coming out, and he will be coming back after the first of the year. I didn't bring my calendar back here. It's been that kind of day. But we'll set a date and get him back on the show because he says he's got 3 books coming out next year. And if you're as interested in him as I am, you're going to want to read these books. So, Gary, tell the audience where they can find you.
Okay, the easiest thing I think anyone can do is basically go to Amazon in the book section or Kindle section and just put my name in, Gary Starta, Garystarta. That's going to bring up my Amazon page where you can have all the books there like a website. So maybe, one or so will catch your eye. I have republished some of the books and drastically reduced the price. So for only like 99 cents, you're going to get a full-length novel. So I hope you'll take the chance on one and, see if you like the others. And from there on, you can also go to my website. It's www.garystarta.net. And those are the 2 easiest ways to get them. Most of them in Kindle format. There's a few paperback versions out there. But again, for the bargain, and to make this affordable, especially in this economic climate we're in, I try to keep those books down so people, they want to take a chance on a new author. They're only doing it for 99 cents. So I hope
they can also get you on Facebook. They can also get you on Facebook, right?
Oh, yeah, I have several pages on Facebook. I have a Gary Starta page. I have a Gary Starta sci-fi fan page, and I almost have pages for almost each and every one of my books. So somewhere along the way, I guess you'll stumble into one of my things on Facebook or on Twitter. Goodreads, I'm out there. Let's see.
Ladies and gentlemen, put Gary Starta in your search engine and pull this young man up. I am telling you, we're getting down to the last couple of minutes. And before we run out of time, Gary, I want to say thank you so very much for being my guest tonight. It's been an educational experience as well as a fun experience. And I, for one, read with an open mind so I can learn. And you are phenomenal, so I'm definitely bringing you back. And, of course, this show will go up on about 5 different podcasts, plus iTunes, plus YouTube, plus Stitcher. So you're going to be everywhere. And when I put the podcast up, I will put them on my Facebook page and tag you in it. And I want you to take this show and use it any way you want to promote yourself. Because, my friend, you are amazing.
Well, I really appreciate those kind words. I can't say enough. I mean, it's this is like when you set out writing that book and all those months and in isolation doing it, and you don't know what the reaction is going to be. That's what you're shooting for. You want to have a reader enjoy it, maybe learn something along the way, maybe change their way that they think about something, something
Absolutely.
that they never thought about. I would love a book that, does that for me. That would be like, wow, I'd put that book on the top of my favorites, a book that can do that.
So, ladies and gentlemen, go and look Gary up. We're going to run out of time, Gary. I don't want to run out of time and come back.
Right.
So, ladies and gentlemen, go and check Gary Starta out and buy his books because they are absolutely amazing. I'm bringing him back after the first of the year. We didn't get to I Have a Dream, but I'm going to quickly say, if you've got a dream, you live it, you love it, you make it happen because you never know what tomorrow brings We only have this moment in time. We do not have tomorrow, and yesterday is gone. Be a dreamer and make it real, because do not, at the end of your day, say, I shoulda, woulda, coulda. This is Off the Chain. I'm your host, Yvonne Mason, and we are going to be checking here in about 5 seconds. Gary, thank you so very much, my friend. I will set you up for next time, and until Thursday night, I say good night. All right, Gary, we're off the air, so anything I say now will go into the archives. But, again, thank you, my friend, so very much.
You floored me with all your kind words, and I know you're really interested in this stuff yourself, so it means a lot, and I really appreciate that. I would think it'd be fun next time if maybe we can encourage some calls, maybe some people interested in these topics. That'd be nice.
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll promote it that way as a call-in show to ask you questions about hybrids, about the pyramids, about crystals, about the possibility of the artificial life forms, and get people's take on it. That should be a fun show.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's definitely a fun show because, for participation and see, with all the other people out there who might be excited about it or want to learn more about it.
All right. Well, with that, I'm going to say good evening and thank you again, and I will get these shows up and I'll get them to you, and I'll get the date set and send it to you.
All right. I look forward to it, Yvonne. Thank you very much for tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, sweetheart.
Bye.
Good night.
Night. Bye.
When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can be confusing. Like Swedish techno confusing.
Bark, bark, meow, meow. Dance with me, purple cow. Bark, bark, meow, meow. Ooh, you lovely cow.
Geico makes it easy. With 24/7 access, all you have to do is go to Geico.com and you could save money on car insurance. It just makes sense. Unlike,
Dance with me, purple cow. I like your moves.
Jimmy John's, America's #1 sandwich delivery, fast Ed speaking. I'm on my way.
I'm in the backyard here, Ed. Wow, you are fast.
Yes, sir, freaky fast and freaky good. But I got to say, I've never delivered to a dude in a doghouse.
Well, I'm definitely in the doghouse.
I thought in the doghouse was just an expression, a figure of speech.
Well, the doghouse is a very real place.
How long are you condemned to your canine quarters?
Too soon to tell, but on the bright side...
The doghouse has a bright side?
Yeah, the wife can't throw a lamp this far.
I guess she's been working out.
Order Jimmy John's sandwich delivery today. Jimmy John's. Freaky fast. Freaky fresh.